maybe not as busy with the urgent and that you're more busy with the important. That you're replacing the things that have no eternal consequence, that you're replacing them with things that are truly, truly important. And I hope that's the case in your life, and I really, really do. And if it isn't, man, maybe go back and watch it again, watch each week again, because man, we just went for it. We went for it. 9 weeks of going, this is important. This is important stuff because it's important to God that we make room for Him to touch some lives through our lives. You know, we want our lives to count. No one wants to get to the end of their life and they take their last breath and go, well, what was the purpose of all of that? Nobody wants to do that. We want to get to the end of our lives and go, my life mattered. Me being on this earth had a consequence. There was a reason God gave me the gifts and the talents and the desires. And there's a reason He put me in America. There's a reason He gave me a job. There's a reason He gave me income. There's a reason He put me in Bernal, in the Uinta Basin, wherever you are in line. There's a reason for all of this. And it's so that He could rock and change this world through you and through I. Now we might go, I don't have the strength to do that. Exactly, you don't. But Him working in you, Him working in you through His Spirit, man, He can work through you and rock, change the world around you. Change the life of your family, change your life. And at the end of your life, you go, okay, now it makes sense. But He even wants to take your hurt. He wants to take the things that have just destroyed you, and He wants to flip those things around, and He wants to change someone's life because of you. The struggles you've gone through, He wants to use those to change someone else's life. But here's the thing. If you and I have not made room for that, if we have not made space for that, if we are so busy that God can't even get our attention, even if He knocks on the door like this, then we miss the boat. And then we do get to the end and we go, well, what was that all about? And I hope that you're not there. I hope that you've been listening. And if you haven't, man, it's not too late, right? It's not too late. Maybe take today's message and you can start right there. So last week we talked about generosity, about making room in our lives for impact. And that we need to be generous people. We need to be generous with our time. We need to be generous with our resources. We need to be generous, with our lives. We need to invest in other people, and that God will take that generosity and He'll do something beautiful through our lives if we will just be generous, and we'll just be open-handed. We'll be like, yes, God, you can do this. Go for it, right? And so I believe that we want to be generous. We want to be in a situation where we can help somebody else and we can make this life better. But because we haven't created margin, because we haven't made room for it, it's hard. It doesn't happen. For a lot of us, it doesn't happen. And so we've got to make room for it. And one of the ways, and I didn't talk about it much last week, I'm going to talk about it a little more today, is we've got to make financial margin for God to work through our lives. I'm going to share a story with you that'll hopefully tell you why this is important. Quite a few years ago, maybe about 8 years ago, so Corsi and I started a non-profit organization in South Africa called Transkei Life Project, and we were working with these kids in the slum, and poor families, little huts made out of scraps, and this whole community was just like that. No running water, no toilets. I mean, just a rough little community. And so we started working there with these kids. We wanted to invest in the children. We love kids, and we wanted to do that. And so in order for us to survive, right, to have an income, we started a restaurant. And so we had this little restaurant, and we'd be there every day until 3 o'clock. And at 3 o'clock, we'd buzz up the hill to this community. There was a school down the road, and the kids would meet us there. And we'd be those kids from a little after 3 until about 7 at night, Monday through Friday. And then Saturday morning, we'd meet them for sport and other activities. And Sunday morning, they go to church with us. And then we go and have lunch, and we go to the beach, or we go do something. Yeah, the beach. We live by the beach. Oh, my gosh. Anyway, yeah. Sorry, that wasn't on my notes. But, we enjoyed life with these kids, and the restaurant helped us to survive, but it didn't give us much income, much left over. It didn't give us much margin to invest in the kids. And then we had this church from Colorado Springs approach us, and they were like, hey, we want to come on a mission trip. We want to partner with you guys. We're like, yes, come on. So they came over to South Africa, and they just blessed our kids, man. It was so cool. So amazing to have them there. And while they were there, it was a Sunday morning. It was part of their week, and so we invited them to go to church with us. And so we said, all right, here's the address, we'll see you there. Starts at 10 o'clock, and because we're going to pick up the kids to bring them to church, because we did that every Sunday. And so, we tell the kids to meet us, starting around 9:30 at the school where we normally meet, and then I'd show up with my big old car, our big car. Here it is. Have you got it there, bro? There it is, yeah. So it's called an Opel Corsa, and it's huge. It seats 5 people comfortably. And we'd transport 55 kids. Okay, not all at once, right? I mean, we'd spread it out. We'd do maybe 5 trips, you know what I mean? And so, anyway, so this church from Colorado, they're waiting for us. And so the car pulls up, the doors open, kids slam out, doors close, I'm up the hill again, get the next group, come back, did this 5 times, 55 kids, boom, you do the math. I know you're good at math, right? And so anyway, it was great. It was a great time. At the end of the week, these folks go back to Colorado Springs. Just a few days later, we get a phone call from one of the couples, and they're like, hey, we don't think that putting 11, 12 kids in a 5-seater Corsa is a good thing. So we want to do something about it. We want to buy you a van. Woo! Yes! Sounds awesome! So they bought us a van so that our kids could be safe, right? So anyway, we got the van, we put our Transcal Life stickers on the doors, and then we sent them a video just to show them that their kids are safe. So here's the video. You can check this out. See what you think. So awesome. The next Sunday, it's just two trips to church. Yes! My friend Eddie is an officer. Bro, just ignore that. We didn't really do that. It's only pretending. This whole thing is pretend, right? But yes, this is a big deal, man. This is a big deal. It actually was such a blessing. It was such a blessing for these people to give us this van. It's amazing. But here's what you need to know. Here's what you need to know. This family, when we contacted them, we're like, thank you. Thank you so much. Here's what they said. They said, we've been blessed to be a blessing. That's what they said to us. We've been blessed to be a blessing. And that's why they were so generous with it. Now they're unbelievably generous, right? But here's what you and I need to hear this morning. They were intentional about making space, making room, making margin in their budget so that they could be generous. You with me? Right? It wasn't just like out of their abundance they had this big bank account over here. No. This guy who gave us the money for the van, you can ask Corsi, he drove the oldest Subaru in all of Colorado, okay? 100,000 plus miles on it, and you're like, dude, get a new car. No, why? Because that $500 a month payment on that new car, that goes into an account so that we could use it to do what? To bless somebody. That's thinking generosity, right? Making changes in their lives so that they could bless the kids and bless us, and we got to be there and got to see a part of it. And so, man, it just seems irrational. Irrational generosity. What a beautiful thing. And here's what we need to know is that the reason why they're doing it, the reason why they want to be generous, was because of Jesus. Because Jesus demonstrated irrational generosity to them, right? Jesus demonstrated irrational generosity. We sang that song, beautiful song called Reckless Love. Reckless, irrational. What the heck? Why would you give up your life for someone else like you and I? Why would Jesus do that? Because of love. Because he loves us. And so that's why he did it. And in the same way, great. Man, I wish every time I saw a need I could do something about it, but you just don't understand. At the end of the month, there's nothing, man. It ain't there. You don't understand, buddy. Yeah, I'd love to be generous like that, but there's nothing there. Well, let's talk. Let's talk this morning. Let's go. Yes, if you're a guest here, here's what you need to know. We don't steer away from having tough conversations, right? We're okay with talking about things. So we're just gonna be real. We're gonna just dive right in. Let's talk about that. What does that look like? Because here's what I know. If I asked you, and I'm not getting, so don't worry. If I asked you, could you raise your hand if you've ever experienced any stress related to finances? How many hands do you think would go up in this room? Yeah, some of you put up a foot as well, right? We all experience it. We know, like it's tough, right? It's tough. I mean, I know gas prices are going up, things are going up. It's tough. There's not money left at the end of the month. So what do we need to do about that? What does that look like? Well, I was reading about this week, and it was like a mindset, like an attitude toward finances. And there's two attitudes, two mindsets. And so the first one is called a scarcity mindset, or scarcity cycle. And so here's what it looks like, right? So God provides. You've got a job, right? You've got a job, you've got income coming in, or you've retired, you've got your pension, or whatever it is, but you've got income coming in. So God provides. And what happens is when and you start to list it off, right? Mortgage, gas, and then those things that you really want, right? They're in that list too. So you start to consume. And then when you consume, it's all gone. And then you lack. Like, I don't have any, there's nothing left. And then what does it do? It brings up a fear inside of you. And you fear. And so you fear it. And so then when you get paid again, guess what you do again? You consume. It's all got a place where it's going to go. Boom, off it goes. And you stay in that cycle. And it's called the scarcity cycle. And you don't get out of it. Again, I'm not going to ask for hands, but you're sitting there, you're like, good, that's it. Money comes in, it goes out, paycheck to paycheck, right? There's nothing left over. Man, I'm in that cycle. Okay, but there's a better cycle to get in on, and this is what it looks like. It's called the abundance cycle. Now, you're going to be like, dude, how does this work? This doesn't work. Well, God provides. You've got a job, right? You've got your income that's coming in. And what do? The first thing you do is you give. Now, it seems illogical. It seems illogical, but I'm telling you, you've got to get on this cycle. If you stay on the other cycle, you will never get out of it. You will always be living like this. But if you get onto this cycle where you give, what happens when you give? Right? You move into a different economy. You move from your economy, my economy, you move into God's economy. And it's different. I'm telling you it's different. And you give, and then what happens? God multiplies. God multiplies, and then what happens? You're like, that's incredible. And then your faith grows. And so the next time you get some money, guess what you do? You give again. And you get onto this cycle, and your life looks different because of it. Alright? It looks different because of it. It's a big deal. But what we do is we hold back and we spend our money as soon as we get it. I'll give you a practical example of how this looks, right? So, this family gave us this van. You guys want to know about this family? Long time ago. If they're watching online, it was really long ago. A long time ago, they made a decision that they're going to put God first in their finances. And it was a big day for them. They were like, we're going to get off of the scarcity cycle. They didn't know it was called that, but they were on that cycle. And then we're going to get onto this abundance cycle. We're going to give. And they made a decision a long time ago, long before they were earning good money, that they were going to give their first 10% to God. Right? So God provides. Here it is. Boom. $1,000. Fantastic. $100. I'm going to give that to God. We're going to live on $900. They made that decision a long time ago. And they got onto that cycle. And they stayed with it. And then as their life went on and they started getting blessed, man, and they nice better jobs and better income and 2 incomes, and they grew. They never dropped that principle. They kept going with it. They stayed on it. They never lost it. They stuck with it. Always, every month, they were like, the first 10% goes to God. Above anything else. Even before mortgage, 10% go to God. And they stuck with it. And they're tired. That's what they did. And here's what happens, guys, when we get generous like that, when we get into that cycle, and we're generous with our lives, we're like, here's my income, Lord, here it is. Man, it's amazing. God opens His blessings, and we get more blessed, and we get onto this amazing cycle of what does. And so we're making room. Now here's the thing. The secret to getting onto the cycle of abundance, guys, is to give your first fruits to God. I know people hate to talk about this in church, but I'm just sharing it with you. This is true. It's true. There's scriptures all throughout the Bible, and you're like, why are you talking about money in church? Because Jesus did. 11 of His 40 parables were about money. He talked about it all the time. He talked about money more than prayer and faith combined. And so if it's okay for Jesus to talk about it, Sean can talk about it too, right? So don't shoot me. All right? Please. The secret is we've got to respond with generosity. We've got to respond with generosity. There's an awesome story in the Bible. You've heard about it before, where this man just positioned himself. And that's what living with margin does. You position yourself to live with generosity. Okay? And so here's the story. It's the Good Samaritan. It's in Luke chapter 10, verse 30. This fellow was traveling down from Jerusalem to Jericho when some robbers mugged him. They took his clothes. I love how descriptive this is. They beat him to a pulp. And they left him naked and bleeding and in critical condition. By chance, good for him, right? By chance, a priest, a religious guy, was going down that same road. And when he saw the wounded man, he crossed over to the other side of the road and passed by. And then a Levite, who was on his way to the temple, lucky again, the guy on his way to the temple. He saw the victim lying there, and he too kept his distance. Then a despised Samaritan journeyed by. And when he saw the fellow, he felt compassion for him. The Samaritan went over to him, stopped the bleeding, and he applied some first aid. And he put the poor fellow on his donkey. They didn't have little local horses back in the day, so they had donkeys. And he brought the man to an inn, and he cared for him through the night. And the next day, the Samaritan took out some money, 2 days' wages to be exact, and he paid the innkeeper, saying, please take care of this fellow, and if this isn't enough, I'll repay you next time I pass through. Now, which of these three proved himself a neighbor to the man who had been mugged by the robbers? This is Jesus asking this question. And the scholar that he was talking to said, well, the one who showed mercy to him. And then Jesus says, well, then go and behave like that Samaritan. Isn't this challenging, guys? I read this week, and I was like, dang. But I'm so impressed by this guy. I love so much about him. And 2 weeks ago I talked about we should not be religious, right? We shouldn't be pretending like we're religious. And we don't want to be the kind of church that pretends and acts like we're religious. And this story
The two religious guys, the ones who, man, hopefully they felt the grace of God. The two that should have to cross over and walk right by. And then the one who shouldn't, he's the one who stops. And I'll tell you, that's because he made some decisions in his life. He prepared himself for this moment. He prepared himself to be helping out. And maybe these religious guys were so busy being religious, so busy going to the temple, so busy with all of their religious activity that they forgot what it looks like to be compassionate. They forgot what it looks like to have mercy. They forgot what it looks like to be generous. And so they went about their lives, but this guy stopped. Apparently you had to hear that really loud. The Samaritan made room in his life to have an impact. He made time in his schedule. And he got his head dirty. You know? The little guy was blood. Stop the bleeding. It's messy work. He applied first aid. He helps this guy. And then he puts him on his donkey. And off they go. Broncos fan. Off he went, you know? But he was generous with his belongings. He was generous with his things. He checks him into a hotel. Doesn't check him in and then buzz off. No, he checks him in and he stays with the guy the whole night. Takes care of him all through the night. Makes sure he's all right. The next morning, he checks out when this guy's okay. He goes, but he pays his bill. And he's like, man, if he stays here longer, you let me know. When I come back through, I'm going to pay. 2 days wages, he paid. He did that, man. Guys, that's called generosity. That's generosity with his time, with his resources, with his heart, with his life, with his money. He's generous. I love that about this guy. I love that about him. And then Jesus says to us, well, that's what it looks like to be a neighbor. So now go and do the same thing. Go and do the same thing. And maybe you're sitting there going, I love that. I want to be that. I want to be that person.
But I can't right now. I just can't right now. There's no money left at the end of the month. There's no time in my schedule. I just cannot. Well, listen to me. Do something about it. Do something about it. Yeah, here's what the Samaritan did. He gave us the blueprint of what it looks like to be generous. So here's what he did. The first thing he did is he gave spontaneously. So give spontaneously. Let this be part of your strategy going forward. Give spontaneously. See, I don't think this guy woke up that morning knowing what was going to happen later that day. Do you? No, man, he was just walking along, and there's this guy, and he's been beaten to a pulp, and he's lying there, and all these other religious people are walking by, and he's like, I got to do something about it, I can help. I don't think that morning he counted out 2 days' wages, like, probably going to need this later. No, it was spontaneous. He just saw it, he saw a need, and he was like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to help out. But what he did do, listen, what he did do, is he made his heart available. Do you remember last week I talked about the, what do we call it? Can anyone remember? Antenna. Thanks. Your antenna's up, you're looking. He made himself available. God, what can you do to help? I want to be generous today. And so God gave him an opportunity to do it, and he was ready. He was prepared to be spontaneous. And he had business. He was on his way.